Under the asphalt, under the neighborhoods, under the industrial estates, and under enormous expanses of urban infrastructure, there exists a silent network that works without rest. They are conduits manufactured to resist decades of pressure, humidity, weight, temperature changes, and constant flow. Concrete pipes form part of that hidden column that keeps entire cities functioning. Their manufacture seems simple from a distance: cement, sand, stone, water, and steel. But in reality, it is a high-precision industrial process where every proportion, every vibration, every rotation of the mold, and every minute of curing influences the final strength of the product. Inside a large plant, production does not stop. Raw materials enter at one end, pass through automatic dosing, mixing, reinforcement, molding, and storage systems, and emerge converted into structures capable of withstanding enormous loads for half a century or more. This is how millions of concrete pipes are produced each year within an enormous production line. Everything begins long before the cylindrical shape of a pipe appears. The process starts with the preparation of the materials because the resistance of the final product depends on the stability of each component from the first minute. The base of the concrete used in these pipes is formed by Portland cement, sand, water, and coarse aggregates, normally gravel or crushed stone. At first glance, they seem like ordinary materials, but in a large-scale production line, they are not treated as simple raw materials, but as structural variables that must be controlled with enormous precision. Coarse aggregates usually represent the largest part of the mix. They are the mineral skeleton that provides mass, rigidity, and the capacity to withstand compression. They arrive from quarries near the plant to reduce logistical costs and maintain a relatively uniform quality. There, they are crushed, classified by size, and stored in conditions that prevent contamination or excess moisture. Granulometric uniformity is not a minor detail. If the particles are too irregular or poorly distributed, internal voids appear, density drops, and the load capacity of the pipe is compromised. Sand serves another function. Its task is to fill the spaces between the coarse aggregates, improve compaction, and favor a more homogeneous mass. Before entering production, it is washed, sieved, and its moisture content is controlled. If the sand contains clay, organic matter, or an excess of fines, the behavior of the mix changes. The concrete can lose cohesion, vary its setting time, or generate unequal resistance in the pipe wall. Therefore, even before mixing, intense technical control already exists. Portland cement acts as a binder. It is the material that, when reacting with water, initiates hydration and generates the matrix that unites all the components. In the plant, it is stored in closed silos, protected from humidity, and transported by sealed systems to the dosing area. Here too, absolute precision is required. A minimal variation in the amount of cement changes the compressive strength, alters behavior in the mold, and affects long-term durability. In a buried pipe, any error of origin can be amplified over the years until it becomes cracks, leaks, or structural failures. Water, although it usually seems like the simplest component, is also rigorously controlled. It must not only be clean, but also exactly dosed. In the production of concrete pipes, the mix cannot be as fluid as the conventional concrete used in columns or slabs. Here, a much drier consistency is sought with low workability, capable of maintaining shape and compacting efficiently through vibration, compression, or rotation. If too much water enters, the mix loses density. If too little enters, hydration may be incomplete and the internal structure does not develop its full strength. Once all components are defined and calibrated, automatic dosing begins. In large modern plants, this step is managed by computerized systems that weigh each material according to a pre-designed technical recipe. It is not worked by estimation or intuition. It is worked by extremely small tolerances. The goal is for each batch to be practically identical to the previous one because a production line that manufactures hundreds or thousands of units cannot afford random variations. Then comes the mixing. In this phase, the cement, aggregates, sand, and water enter high-power mixers, where metal blades or horizontal axis systems subject the mass to intense and controlled movement. It is not just about joining materials, it is about uniformly coating each mineral particle with cement paste, activating hydration, and obtaining a dense, stable, and repeatable mix. The mixing time is carefully adjusted. If it is too short, the mass remains heterogeneous. If it is too long, energy is wasted, the texture changes, and homogeneity can be affected. At this point, a key concept appears: the initial density of the mix. As these pipes must resist soil pressure, traffic loads, vibrations, and constant flow for decades, the concrete cannot contain unnecessary voids. Future compaction begins to be defined from the mixing stage. The more stable and uniform this mass is, the more reliable the finished product will be. While the concrete is being prepared, in another part of the line, another essential process advances: the manufacture of the steel reinforcement. Not all pipes require it in the same way, but in models of large diameter or high structural demand, internal reinforcement is decisive. Steel bars arrive in coils or long sections and must first be straightened. This operation eliminates residual curvatures and stabilizes the geometry of the material. Then they pass to an automatic machine that forms the cylindrical reinforcement cage. This cage is constructed by joining longitudinal bars with a wire or spiral that rotates around them. Each crossing is fixed by resistance welding. The machine controls the pitch of the spiral, the rotation speed, and the separation between elements according to the design of the pipe. It is not simply about adding steel. It is about placing it exactly where the structure needs it to control tensile and flexural stresses, which are responsible for most cracks in concrete elements subjected to complex loads. When the cage is finished, it must be perfectly round, stable, and centered. A small deviation can create unequal thicknesses of concrete cover, areas more vulnerable to corrosion, and an irregular distribution of stresses. For this reason, even before the pipe exists as a visible object, there are already two parallel lines of industrial precision working at the same time. One manufacturing the mineral body and another manufacturing the steel skeleton that will reinforce it from the inside. With the mix prepared and the reinforcement cage finished, production enters the phase that really gives shape to the pipe. It is the moment when the material stops being a controlled mass and starts to become a structure with precise geometry, defined thickness, and real load capacity. This section of the production line is one of the most spectacular because here, steel molds, synchronized feeding systems, and equipment that utilize vibration, pressure, or centrifugal force to compact the concrete intervene. Everything starts with the assembly of the base mold. This piece serves as the structural support and geometric reference for the whole. It must have very high rigidity because the reinforcement cage and the outer mold will be placed on it, and any deformation would alter the axis of the pipe. The steel cage is installed on this base and fixed with attachment points or mechanical systems that prevent movement during filling. Then spacers are placed to ensure that the steel does not remain stuck to the mold, but rather enveloped by a uniform layer of concrete. This coating is vital because it protects the reinforcement against humidity, salts, soil sulfates, and other aggressive agents. Then the outer mold is lowered, which encloses the assembly and creates the cavity where the mix will be placed. At this moment, the exact volume of the pipe wall is already defined. The thickness, internal diameter, and external diameter cannot be left to improvisation. Each parameter responds to a structural design intended for a specific load. There are pipes destined for modest drainage and others prepared to be buried at great depth or to resist the continuous passage of heavy vehicles. That demand translates into the shape of the mold and the position of the reinforcement. With the mold closed, filling begins. The concrete mix arrives via a hopper or a distributor system that introduces it in a controlled manner. Here an important particularity appears. The concrete used does not flow freely like a liquid mass. It has very little water and a rigid consistency. Therefore, it needs mechanical assistance to be distributed correctly. In some lines, the mold rotates while the material enters. In others, rotation is combined with intense vibration. There are also compaction systems by vibrating core or radial pressing, depending on the type of pipe and the technology of the plant. When the mold rotates, centrifugal force pushes the mix toward the outer wall. This movement has several advantages. First, it distributes the material continuously along the entire circumference. Second, it favors the settling of coarse particles and the reduction of internal voids. Third, it helps form a uniform wall without the need for an excessively wet mix. The result is a denser and more resistant structure. The rotation speed is not fixed. It changes according to the diameter of the pipe, the desired thickness, and the characteristics of the mix. A small pipe can allow for faster turns. A large one needs more moderate rotation and finer control so that the material does not shift irregularly. Time also matters. If compaction lasts too little, voids remain and the density is insufficient. If it lasts too long, the process loses efficiency and can alter the surface texture. In a large-scale plant, these parameters are already programmed to repeat with the least possible variation. In lines that use intense vibration, the principle is similar, although the physical mechanism changes. The objective remains to eliminate trapped air, redistribute particles, and ensure the mix occupies all spaces of the mold without forming weak areas. Vibration causes the material to rearrange itself, lowers internal friction, and achieves a much higher compaction than it would have by simple gravity. In combination with a dry mix, this allows for the manufacture of pipes with excellent mechanical strength and low porosity. During this phase, the pipe is still a young structure. It has shape but not enough strength to withstand rough handling. The concrete is beginning its setting. Chemical reactions between cement and water advance at a microscopic level, forming crystals and bonds that over time will become a solid matrix. While this happens, the line must maintain the balance between productivity and product care. It cannot be accelerated beyond a certain limit without compromising quality. Once the piece has reached a minimum initial strength, demolding begins. It is a delicate operation. The outer mold opens gradually using hydraulic or mechanical systems. If it is removed too early, the pipe can deform, especially at edges or ends. If it is removed too late, the adhesion between the concrete and the mold increases and the process can damage the surface. Therefore, the exact moment of demolding depends on the mix, ambient temperature, humidity, and the behavior of the produced batch. After removing the outer mold, the pipe usually remains for more time on its base or in a controlled position. The reason is simple: it has not yet developed its full resistant capacity. Although the shape is already defined, the structure continues to mature. At this stage, any blow, torsion, or poorly executed lift can introduce micro cracks that are not always visible immediately, but that will reduce the useful life of the buried product. Therefore, even internal transfer is carried out with equipment designed to distribute weight uniformly. Cranes, clamps, lifting bridges, or automated systems move the pipes without generating stress concentrations at a single point. At this point in the process, precision is no longer just geometric. It is also mechanical. Every maneuver counts, every contact matters. Because the pipe is still in transition, it already has the definitive shape, but it has not yet reached the structural maturity that will convert it into a piece capable of withstanding decades underground. After molding and demolding, the process enters a less visible but absolutely decisive phase: curing, stabilization, and final control. At first glance, it might seem that the pipe is already finished. It has the correct shape, the planned diameter, and a surface defined by the mold, but in reality, its true strength is still being built. Concrete does not reach its structural capacity the instant it leaves the line. It develops over time as internal cement hydration reactions continue. For this reason, pipes are moved to storage or curing areas where environmental conditions are controlled. There they are placed on supports calculated to distribute the load without inducing flexion. This is especially important in long pieces or those of large diameter, where a poorly placed support can generate subtle deformations while the material is still gaining rigidity. Each unit is organized by size, load class, and production stage. In a plant that manufactures thousands of pipes, this order is not just logistical, it is also part of quality control. Humidity plays a central role. If concrete loses water too quickly, cement hydration is interrupted prematurely, and shrinkage microcracks can appear. These cracks, although small, open the way to future problems: lower durability, higher permeability, and worse behavior against chemical agents in the soil or transported water. Therefore, many plants apply wet curing, misting, or storage in environments where humidity is conserved during the first critical days. Temperature also influences. If it is too low, Chemical reactions slow down and strength development takes longer. If it is too high, the surface can dry out before the interior finishes evolving correctly. In both cases, the final product suffers. For this reason, industrial plants adjust curing as if it were an extension of molding. It is not a passive stage. It is an active phase of structural formation. During the first few days, the pipe gains a significant part of its strength. Even so, the complete maturation process continues for weeks. In industrial terms, this forces the planning of inventory flow because not everything that leaves the mold can be immediately loaded onto a truck and sent to the worksite. Some pieces require more time before being ready for transport, handling, and service. The great advantage of the system is that once its design strength is reached, the concrete pipe offers a combination that is very difficult to match: mass, stability, rigidity, durability, and a long useful life.